I used to have social anxiety, so I was actually afraid to record myself and afraid to do public speaking. All of my sales, studying 175, writing over $4 million commission in 3 years, it all came from self-development and practice.
Auctions are dead in 2025, true or false?
Auctions right now, 76% sold within a 90-day period is our stats, and getting on average about 22 to 23 days to get sold. It's not dropping, and it's still up about 10%, 15% more than 2019. I paid $350 for the property, rented it for $120. Now it's worth $600K. It is a really good time to buy right now.
What's the highest gross yield property you've ever seen that's hit the market?
Let's just pick like a crazy big goal and let's go for it.
So let's jump in. Lawrence, super excited to have you here, mate. Obviously, you're starting a new venture, moving away from the old and pivoting to the new spot. Tell us a little bit about Limitless Real Estate and when you're planning to launch.
Yeah, thanks so much, mate. I really appreciate it. So, yeah, we started Limitless Real Estate. In the next 2 weeks, we're going to be launching, and this is basically a real estate agency that I've wanted to open up an agency for the past 4 or 5 years, but I decided I need to become a good salesperson first. So I said, I'm going to sell 100 homes as quick as possible and then open up my agency. So 3 years ago, I sold my first home, sold 175 in 3 years. And then now I've decided I'm ready, launch the brand and build my own real estate agency.
That is super exciting. Look, we are big fans of young folks doing big things when it comes to property finance, any business essentially. Look, I've seen your content. I know you work hard, but what do you think will be the secret sauce to sort of take Limitless Real Estate to the next level compared to your past performance?
Yeah, so Limitless Real Estate, it's going to be duplicating my system. So I've written about 1.9 million in the past 12 months. I'm seeing how can I duplicate my administration, my systems, my marketing onto other agents that they can earn more money in the future. So we want to give agents the opportunity of earning more potential income with the splits. We want to give them full admin support in terms of the back-end systems. Most of the real estate salespeople don't want to do administration. And then a main pivotal thing that we're doing is the agent personal branding. So what we see is that people remember personal brands 67% more than just text. So if you drive around, you see all real estate agent signboards, all their faces are really small. Whereas you look at one agent, they've got big signboards of their face. They've got big photos on all the open home signs, and people remember those faces. It's all about that personal brand, because people don't stare very long into the signboards, but when they drive quickly across the road and they see a big face, that's an impression in their brain. So the more impressions they can get, the more market share in their brain becomes, and more likely are to call that agent.
Wow. That's awesome.
So it's all about that personal brand. We want to build the back-end systems with the administration and then also give them hands-on mentorship with my system. So I'm just trying to see how can I duplicate someone's GCI from if they're doing 500, how do I turn that to 1 million? If they're doing 200, how do we push that to 1 million? How do we go to 1.5 million? And managing that team structure over there. So I think the best way to succeed in real estate is just copy and duplicate other one's success and just pair up with them as quick as possible.
That is super interesting. Like, especially the fact that you sell real estate in 20 to 40 days in one of, if not the most competitive real estate market in New Zealand, which is the South Auckland market. We know in South Auckland, it is competition galore when it comes to getting the best for your vendors, working with buyers as well. It's a fine balance. It's a fine dance. You're going to carry on that legacy, obviously moving forward into Limitless. How do you see attracting the right talent who you'd give this sort of opportunity to work with you, with your processes that they can replicate and become a great salesperson? Because obviously you've got a hard job on your hand. I mean, there's going to be like 100 or maybe 200 people that you'd interview. So what would be the way that someone would stand out?
Yeah, for us right now, we're focusing on agents that have a track record that are selling at least eight properties per year. Okay. And that enables them to plug into our admin system and plug into the system without being needed to train up and everything. So we want agents with existing skills. And right now I'm basically a recruiter and I'm here to be a trainer and provide value to agents. So my job is how do I provide the most amount of value to agents to increase their income, to decrease the amount of time they need to put into the business and increase the leverage so that they can either increase their business or they can even maybe take a step back if they want to have a bit more time on the side and let the team run the show. So essentially, I'm trying to see where can I create the most value for these agents. And we're going to be working with agents that have got businesses already up and running so that we can just tweak it and then we can push it up, hopefully double or triple their business in the near future.
All right. So if that's the goal, you obviously seem like a person that's really driven to have processes and systems in place. You follow the system, that process that's built, along with being coachable, and you'll most likely succeed. So obviously you're taking someone that has a basic level of foundational talent and you're upskilling them with the system or the processes that Limitless would have for them. So I guess one thing that I want to ask you, across all the firms and, across all the agents, what would be the standard of Limitless Real Estate moving forward? Or what would it be like that you would want to see in every agent in your firm?
The main standard that I want to see in agents is self-development, because that's one of the fundamentals that's increased my business so much. So all of my sales, selling 175, writing over $4 million commission in 3 years, it all came from self-development and practice and training myself to be better and better every day. And I see a lot of agents, they just try and freestyle. They'll walk in there, they think they can do a listing presentation, they think they can do all this, they think they can cold call, but they never practice their skills. And I try to focus at least 30 to 60 minutes every day, practicing, watching videos, rehearsing, recording myself. I used to have social anxiety, so I was actually afraid to record myself and afraid to do public speaking. And I did 2 years of Toastmasters public speaking in front of like a group of 20 people. It was terrifying. And I went back again and again and again. And then now I've done speeches in front of 500 people, like a 20-minute speech. And I feel like this boost of like energy and enthusiasm. But I've done the reps, I've done 200 reps, and now I've watched myself on video, rehearsed, practiced, and then learnt again and again. So the system that I want to push onto other agents is, how do they implement self-development into their business every day? How do they get better in the calling, better in the prospecting? Because this is no rocket science. We are selling property, but if you want to sell 100 homes in a year, if you want to sell 15 a year, it's a different skill. And
It's a different game.
you need to get better against other people. That's all we're trying to beat them. So let's get better with the skills rather than just brute force.
That is awesome, man. I guess the key question that perhaps you'd thought about already, but we'll put it into the limelight. So what keeps you aggressively motivated in such a highly competitive sales environment, being South Auckland's real estate market? What is the secret core? You said that, you've mastered the skill set of where perhaps this was a weakness and you've put in the reps. Where we agree with you, obviously the reps has to be put in, maybe 1,000 for some people, 200 for the other, until they sort of see the light. So where's the drive coming from to kind of keep going aggressively?
With myself, I'm always quite a competitive person. So I've always tried to win at competitions, win at sports. And I actually went down quite a bad pathway when I was 18 to 20. Like I went to a lot of festivals, substances, went down like a really bad pathway. And it was really good because I went down such a dark pathway that my life needed to flip. And by flipping, you start to realize you need to get your life in order. And that's when I started on the self-development journey of trying to get over social anxiety, do public speaking, and just get over all of those nerves. Once I found that I had the problem of this nervousness and not getting out there, then I needed to try and fix it. So I've always gone on this self-development, get better. And also the reason that I wanted to do this is because of experience. So the thing that we can either live a life of just average goals and average things. And then I read Grant Cardone's book, The 10X Rule, and he's just like 10X your goals, 10X. I was originally thinking I want to earn $100,000 per year.
As you do.
And then he says 10X. I'm like, all right, I want to do 1 million. And then I read the book again. He's like 10X it. I want to do 10 million. It's just, if I look at like money, like I only spend maybe 13% of my income on myself right now. The rest goes back in the business. So I wrote 1.9 million, 13% saved. And basically I'm just looking at how do I squeeze the most amount of experience and fun out of life. And then when you get a lot of money and assets, then you can do a lot of good and create value. If you want to create a massive organization and create a movement, you need funds, capital, influence to do that. So I think in the long term, once, let's say you achieve $1 billion, money's quite worthless.
It becomes worthless where time becomes extremely expensive.
100%. And then what do those people do to get value? Well, they start to create this company and organization that's creating a movement. You look at Mark Zuckerberg. He could stop working like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But he's like, what else would I do? I want to just keep building this company.
Well, purpose is a big thing, right? And I can tell that, you've got purpose. There's people that I speak to that are clients that are very purpose driven, whether it's in business or even in their career, or just, they are doing things where it is sort of, the time is ticking, but they're not ticking over their patience. Right. And so what I think from that, based on what you said, is that should become so natural to you. And look, you might get to a point where you've mastered real estate to a point where you fine-tuned it, replicated it, trained 100 agents, 200 agents that are making great GCI. And then you might find some other bigger problem that you want to solve because, like you said, you've now got the capital and funds to perhaps think for bigger purposes that are not yet crossed your mind, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. And also coming back to the name of my company, Limitless Real Estate. So
I like that.
we are held back by the limits in our own brain. And if you want to achieve something in life, if you decide that you want to do it and focus, have intense desire, a burning desire, and that's from the Think and Grow Rich book, have burning desire and take action and surround yourself with people that have achieved similar goals, you're going to eventually achieve that. And you have to just believe it 100%. So I try and look at sports people, you look at people that have achieved great things. Let's just pick like a crazy big goal and let's go for it. And if you fail, you're going to fall over and you get back up and try again. And you just keep going. And if you can't get up and you die, then you're dead anyway because everyone's going to die. So just keep going.
Well, you're dying every minute, right?
That's it.
Yeah.
Everyone's expiring. Everyone's going to die. So may as well just go hard.
Let's just do things.
Be safe. Try to live as long as you can, but let's maximize that experience. Let's squeeze the lemon and
100%.
have a really good time.
Lawrence, you know that first home buyers are active in the market. Property investors were a thing and they were doing things until sort of 2023 kicked in and the handbrake was pulled and interest rates were going back up. Now, you must deal with a ton of people that are either selling their existing property and upgrading to a new place because they would have bought pre-2020, capital gains there, and been cashed in, and now they want a nicer place to live. So if you were to look back at the last 12 months in this dynamic market, it's hard for agents as well, for anyone that's working in this market. Where do you see most of the transaction? Is it first home buyers? Is it doer uppers? What's sort of going through?
In terms of, if we look at just the real estate stats, there's probably around 20 to 25% could be the first home buyers. There's investors, there are developers and second home buyers. So like the type of buyer they fluctuate here and there. We are seeing as the interest rates drop a bit more, there are more first home buyers that come into market, which is good. One point to raise is that if we look at all real estate agents, yes, the market has been lower than it was. I sold my first home when the market dropped 100K. So it dropped 100K and it's the only market I've ever known. So my reference point is only this market. And I've achieved our goals within this market. So a lot of people say, oh, it's a bad market. Real estate agents are struggling. Look, if you're a good agent, you don't struggle in any market because you create the market.
Yeah.
Like you reinvest in marketing, you boost things up. The first year I spent most of my money back in the business on marketing and training and building admin support. So
Personal brand.
I'd say looking at the market side, I think right now this is a very normal market. Like the amount of buyers that are coming through properties are normal. Auction rates are normal. The prices are flatlining. They've just been flat for 2 years. So I'd say it's quite a normal market. It's not dropping and it's still up about 10%, 15% more than 2019. I'd say the confidence in the market is that people are looking to make that upsize because they see that may as well do it now before the price goes up. And then the first time buyers, let's actually buy a property before the pricing does go up. Because if it does go up 20% next year, then you price out the market.
Absolutely.
So it is a really good time to buy right now.
So flipping the script now on vendors, right? Sellers, what are the seller expectations that you have to work with and perhaps knock down or realign the expectation from the ground up, considering they have the mindset perhaps of a 21 market? And obviously we're in 2025.
Yeah.
What's the most common stuff that you reset for vendors wanting crazy prices?
Yeah. So with our reset time with vendors is we find that the best resetting conversation is happening at the appraisal. So I've done about 600 appraisals in the past 12 months, and a lot of those are in person. And a lot of those are giving them an honest conversation to say, this is the market, this is where it's going to stay. It could stay like this for another year or two. I'm not sure my prediction expires tonight.
Yeah.
Give them that and let them know that and let them make the decision if they want to take the risk in terms of where the range is. If the range works for them, great, let's move forward. But I always try focus on the motivation. So I'm focusing on what is your motivation to make a move? Is it upsize? Is it Australia? Is it downsizing? Has someone passed away that we need to help? Because if that motivation is very low in this market, it's an absolute waste of time to work with those people with low motivation because the market's not increasing to anything. So if they say, oh, if I get the right price, I just say, look, fantastic. Let's keep in touch. I'll give you a call. This is the price today. If you're not interested, let's keep in touch until it's ready. And as an agent, you need to know when to walk away. So I've actually said no to probably 500 people in the past 12 months in person, but said yes to 100. So we're actually choosing who we want to work with rather than and just, oh, we'll take anything and we get the listing. So resetting the expectation before we even get the listing signed. Once it's signed and we're working with the vendors, we want to get that maximum price for that vendor. We want to squeeze every dollar out the market and then let them make the decision. Because if it's the market's the market. If that's too little if they can't make the move, then at least we've tried, but hopefully we can get over the expectation. And that's all what we're here to do, deliver that market as quick as possible, hopefully over what they expect, and get it all wrapped up so they can make that next move. It's all about, I focus on what's the next move, how we can solve that problem.
That's really good. That's the sort of thing that we deal with all the time. If someone says, when are property prices going up? We can talk about interest rates to an extent. We can talk about rates dropping. We can talk about OCR. We can talk about stats that come out 3 months from GDP, unemployment, inflation. Now, those things change. Like, we didn't know that obviously GDP will drop by 0.9%, which is a massive drop. And the economy is doing wheelies in a muddy field at this point, and resetting any expectations when it comes to when am I going to have more equity in my property to be able to buy more investment? It's a question that should be analyzed periodically, and the decision is on them rather than the market itself. So look, if the house is too small and you need a bigger house, your kid is 7 years old and now going to a better school zone, your motivation's way higher than someone that's perhaps considering downsizing, but is yet to think when that time might be. And I think with what you said, it's quite early that you can realize where someone's motivation is. Those that are driven will get what they want if they're realistic with what is available, versus those that are not as driven will probably kick the can down the road for a little while before they, are driven enough to give you a call.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, the question I ask myself before we list the property is, do they have to get sold so can we help them? Because if they don't really have to, then I'm just going to say, this is where things are at. We need to make a decision. If you want to go on the market, this is where the market is. And if you want to go for it, let's go. If not, that's fine. We've got 10 more appraisals through the rest of the week, and we've got lots of people to help.
Yeah, 100%. Look, if interest rates drop by 1%, right? So say we go from right now 4.49 as of in the video that we're making might be the interest rates are way lower. But
I think they've dropped a bit.
They've dropped, yeah.
0.5 OCR today.
Yeah, so the floating rates dropped, but the banks factored in the drop of fixed rates probably a week or two. I mean, the other banks, they know transaction data compared to perhaps the governor sitting on a seat measuring, what needs to happen in the next 2 to 3 years. Despite that, let's say interest rates drop to about 1%, right? The cost of a mortgage, $600K, first home buyer, standard average debt that they'll take on, is now costing them $631, right? Let's say. And right now the rent is about $650. Those people are going to start having light bulb moments that they'll need to perhaps now go to your open homes on the weekend and see what's on stock. Translating that into the current markets, this is an interesting market because there's such an oversupply of new builds, right? And there's a lot available on Trade Me to rent. Rent prices are also dropping. So if you see interest rates drop by 1%, do you think the oversupply would recover and property prices would then go from flatlining to perhaps increasing? What do you think?
I think it depends how much interest rates do drop. So I did a 4-year honors degree in property, and we worked out modeling and to see what's the effect on different factors in the marketplace. What is the interest rate? How much is inflation? And then we looked at the immigration inside and out. So we worked out, we created our own house price forecast models. And no model is 100% accurate. All have different flaws. And what we saw is that each factor would only play like a 20% factor into the model. So if you look at just interest rates, it's very tough to determine where things are going. But if you get interest rates that go to 0.25% and and the OCR is 0.25, that's extreme in terms of free money.
Yeah.
So it's all about how big that decreases. And then right now I'm looking at just demand and supply. So there's so much people that are moving out of the country and it's just not too many coming in. A lot of buildings, high supply in terms of new builds. So I'd say it's still tough to say in terms of that demand supply. So people look at OCR and all that, but I'd look at all the different rates and I just look at the past 2 years, it's been flat. I also look at 2000 and I look at 2008. So those are when we had the more downturns in the market. And in 2000, the market flatlined for 4 years before it started to increase. And in 2008, it flatlined for around about 4 years. So 2016, we flatlined for about 3 years before we had COVID up to 2019. So what I tell my vendors is, look, right now the market on average flattens out for 3 to 4 years on average. So we've been flat for 2 years. If we just look at the history, there's a chance it might be a bit of a quieter market for the next 1 or 2 years.
And that's totally fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with a flat, like, I guess in New Zealand, we need to get away from this great pill that we swallowed in the recent years of property prices increasing at a dramatic rate, because that's not normal, right? Like having a 50K capital growth month on month, and 6 months down the line, the property's gone up. That's very abnormal. It's probably not a good thing for everyone. There's a lot of property speculators. I'm sure you hear news, this and that. And it's always good to what you said, bringing back down to sort of the facts, the real truth, right? If people are leaving the country and are going to Australia and unemployment is record high, you're not going to have an uprise in market if interest rates drop by 1 or 2%. Immigration plays a huge role. And with that, I guess we do need a lot of skilled migrants, and the national sort of rolling that policy in terms of getting the right people to come in. You know, you want your structural engineers, or if there's a data center that Amazon's starting in West Auckland, you know, you'd want to have all the engineers coming into New Zealand, make it lucrative for them and that sort of thing. We're quite an interesting economy. I think we're not very similar to most of the countries. Real estate is a massive part of our operation as a country. With the elections being there next year in October and Labour coming in, do you think that would have somewhat of a difference to what the market would look like? Or do you reckon government is one side, real estate is other?
Oh, I'll have to get my crystal ball, mate.
I mean, crystal balling really hard here.
Get the crystal ball.
People love crystal balls.
So an interesting thing that I tell the real estate agents that I work with is a lot of them do get focused on the market, the interest rates, immigration, and all this. And I just break it down to think, if you want to look at your real estate business as a business, how many appointments are you doing every week with a potential vendor that you can help? And that's all I boil it down to. You could actually delete all that information just for more real estate agents. You don't need to remember that at all.
Rabbit hole.
Just how many appointments are you doing? Let's meet the clients that help them. And then I'd say the market information is it's valuable to talk overall. When you talk to the client, you talk about the general trends, talk about the future that we generally predict, but then also the past on why maybe it is a good time to buy based on the current rates and everything like that.
You got a listing, there's someone that's super keen, they make the offer, meets the vendor's expectations, you've sort of dragged it out and you've got a great deal on both ends, the step, let's say. Now the finance clause falls over. What's your immediate recovery move there? And the buyer says, hey, look, finances fell, or we need extension of 7 or 8 working days. Is that something that they should perhaps look at talking to you about 5 days before the finance is due? Or do you reckon the last minute will be fine for them and yes, we'll extend it in this market?
I think communication is really important. And if we can deliver communication earlier to the vendors regarding finance conditions, if there's going to be an extension in the contract, we'd really need to know that as soon as possible. Because if you let someone know on the last day, there's a high pressure scenario that they need to make a decision. So the earlier we can deliver maybe uncomfortable news, the better someone can absorb it and they can sleep on it, they can think about it. I think that's quite good to let everyone know as soon as possible. And look, if it does fall over, then it is what it is. Like, we just have to move on to the next buyers that are in the area and just work on them as quick as possible and see if there's another property. Is it better priced, or is there another property that just has less? If there's any problems with the property, just see why it fell over and how we can rectify that on the next one.
So Lawrence, obviously you've been doing this for a while, mate. How has the industry changed since you first joined versus right now, where you're at this point of your career, starting Limitless Real Estate?
So in terms of the technology, speaking to all the other agents that have sold before I even joined in, they were all running around with a lot of paper and with having a lot of technology. So I just run everything off iPhone, iPad, and a Mac. And I've actually got like 10 other different Mac devices. So all of our technology enables us to do quicker transactions. So we can sign contracts and get properties under contract almost immediately. So I was literally 2 hours ago, I was just in my car on my phone, just dated a contract and sold a property. And that technology enables speed. So the thing that I'm going to maybe foresee in the next few, could be months or years, is that administration is going to get more taken over by whether it be AI or AI assistants that are going to do all the administration work. And it's just going to leave the bare bones of what is the sale process? What is it? It's speaking to the client, having a connection, helping them get their property sold and meeting the buyers. So I think we're in quite an interesting shift point of the time in real estate or the whole world
Yeah.
is that administration, like a full-time administration person might cost you could be 80 grand or $100,000 to hire. If you can get an AI bot to link into WhatsApp, your emails, and do everything in the background, then suddenly you've just saved that money. So I think that's going to be the next pivotal point in the industry, which this is why I've built Limitless Real Estate as a digital agents base agency. So we'll have one office and we're going to start to hire agents across New Zealand throughout the whole country. So quite similar to a Resto, where we'll still have stronger fees, where we can charge better fees and also invest in more into marketing. But that digital model is real estate agents don't need an office to go to. They can actually run everything.
Mobile, right?
They're just mobile.
Yeah.
You do the contract, you go to your office is the client's home. So most agents realize that they just go to the home, sign a contract, you can run an on-site auction, and that's basically your office. So I think that's going to be the next pivotal point in the industry. It's whoever can adopt this type of admin support's going to, I think, get ahead of the curve.
No, 100%. We're in the same boat, mate. Like, we works in a way, we're quite parallel to you, right? Where there's no intersection or interjection point, but it's side by side. And for us, like, especially in the AI space, when we're in a client meeting or anything, the way it takes notes to, when or how it was doing in 2018, this is where it's at now is crazy. And then secondly, the amount of information it can sort of work with. What I think starts being the biggest thing for us as a business for Blueprint is making sure the service and speed is unmatched. Your personal brand, your personal service to the client, regardless of who you're working with, is so good, and your speed is so fast that it's almost flawless. It's art in the sense of the way that you're working with the client. I think you're right with all the AI stuff that's going to come in, and administration being an easy thing now. The salesperson had it tied against their foot really when they were doing as much as possible. It's going to allow them to scale more. And I really like the fact that you don't believe in the whole coming into the office for an agent. Like you said, the client's home is their office.
And then also I'd say training. So once an agent, if you can get AI to record your calls, record your meetings, then you suddenly got a personal assistant that's training you on how to become a better salesperson. So just giving you direct feedback and delivering all that to you after your next meeting. So people will be able to train up even faster, which is quite cool to see.
That is awesome. True or false, Lawrence?
Yep.
Let's see how we go with this. Auctions are dead in 2025. True or false?
I'd say it's false. And the reason is that auctions, they work really well in the bad market. They work really well in the good market. And it is about the type of property. So it's going to be a very tricky type of property that needs a lot of building consent work or research done to it. Then I'd say you probably might look at a different type of method, whether it be a tender or negotiation. But auctions right now, 76% sold within a 90-day period is our stats. And getting on average about 22 to 23 days to get sold. So it's a superior method, and we're getting around 4.5 buyers on average right now per auction. And that's just that competition. It's transparent, and yeah, they're definitely working really well.
First home buyers, we deal with plenty of them that can't attend auctions, right? So the whole story around limited deposit, 90% leverage against the property, and essentially wanting to get their foot in the door as soon as possible. Obviously, attending auctions for them is possible. We do get the clients to take a risk where we seem it's possible for them to do so. But most of the people would prefer tender, deadline, negotiation, that sort of stuff. Any tips for them in how they should structure an offer that you think would be somewhat entertaining to your vendors that are looking to sell?
In terms of an auction?
Oh, in terms of them, nothing related to auction. So just if they're tender, deadline, or negotiation, what do you reckon would be a clean offer from a first-time buyer who's limited in their ability to get things done fast?
Yeah, so with first-time buyers, I'd recommend, let's try get the biggest deposit you can. Try decrease the days on market as short as possible in terms of your finance. Try get as many ducks in a row as possible. The cleanest deal is cash. Like if it's just cash, deposit paid straight away, that is a very clean deal. If you can't do that, make it as short as possible. And if you really do like the property, sometimes you just need to bump the price a bit more. You need to think, okay, well, if I lose it for $1,000, is it worth it to push it up a bit more? Because I'm going to recreate it if I miss out this property. So it's just get decided on what price you're going to work it, decrease those days as much as possible. And if you need to extend it a bit more, you can always do that as a worst case. So know that there's a bit of flexibility there. And I'd say have a conversation with the real estate agent to say, what does this owner really want with a sale? Do they want a short settlement? Do they want more deposit? Do they want long settlement? What terms and conditions can I provide? Have they got rubbish on the property? Can I pay for all the rubbish to get removed off the site?
And you'd entertain that, right? Like if a buyer said that he's driven, he's pushed as much as possible, and he's asking you for anything that would help the vendor, you'd entertain that, right?
100%. And that's going to give the vendor will see, oh, I don't have to clean up the property. I don't have to do this. Don't have to do this. The buyer's going to take on this themselves. The vendor's going to realize, okay, this is more favorable. We've seen contracts that the vendor would select a lower price because the purchaser is going to do all the rubbish removal and just take the property as is.
That's awesome.
So just trying to be creative and see what do they really, really want.
That's your true and false. Cash buyers always beat pre-approved buyers.
I'd say that's false. Cash buyers, they can beat pre-approved buyers, but typically cash sometimes would go a bit lower. So the pre-approved buyer, if they can go a bit higher and they do have conditions that the vendors are going to view them potentially as more favorable, and they might decide, let's give them a few days to work out the finance. So it's really dependent on those are the two factors. You're going to play with the price, you're going to play with the terms. So you can either buy it on their price with your terms, their price, and just trying to see what's going to work best.
Nice. Awesome. Other methods of sale, such as tender or deadline, beat auctions when it comes to South Auckland market. True or false?
I'd say it's false depending on the property type. So auctions work really well for most properties. And in terms of tender or deadlines, we had a property in Otahu that we're negotiating with around the $5 million mark. And that one, it wouldn't work with auction just because it has lots of problems with the road transport agency that's going to be buying out part of the land. So a lot of developers need to spend probably at least 20 to 30 days working through those consents and information to decide, is the price going to stack up to buy this property? So auction, it's a bit tough to put pressure on them and get the maximum price, so rather give them some more time with that. So having that flexibility with the tricky, curly deals.
Nice. Otahuhu and Point England have a higher success or higher chance of a capital growth value compared to Papatoetoe and Mangere. True or false?
I'd say that might be high. Yep, I'd say it's true. Yeah.
I don't know why, man. I just think Otahuhu is the most under... Well, I'm being a bit more sidelined, but if you look at the map of Auckland, Otahuhu is pretty well placed compared to what you get, in terms of price. So compared to Papatoetoe, obviously land of the developers, big sections sell for good prices there. But yeah, that's my 2 cents on it. But obviously you're the man who sells real estate.
Yeah, so it comes down to how close you are to the city. So properties that are more close to the city could have a bit more energy, a bit more demand there. Papatoetoe has been, it's very sought after. A lot of the Indian community like to gravitate towards there. So it is almost like little India. There's so many people going towards there and a lot of development. So I'd say, and if we just look at all the averages over all the suburbs, I'd say they're all within 1% of increase per year of pricing. So I wouldn't choose a suburb based on its percentage growth rate if you're just going to be living there. It's just more work on what's closer in terms of work and driving. So if you drive over 30 minutes to work, your happiness decreases like 10 or 15% because you're spending like an hour or two every day on the road.
Yeah.
So I always advise people, let's try and decrease that time to drive, because less drive time, more time with the family. You could work more and earn more money, but if you're going to just sit in the car, you're not earning anything. You're just looking at the car in front of you.
You know what? That actually made the biggest move for me, because I was living in the North Shore and me and my wife were living there for a while, and I wouldn't think of the commute much to Central Auckland from, Bayview or Aberdeen Highway where we were before. And now that I look at it, I'm like down the road now as we move to like Sandringham and way more closer, 10 minutes to work and back. I'm so much more happier. Go for a run in the morning, get something achieved before even the day starts, a big thing for me.
Yeah.
So I completely agree with you on that. Next one, true or false? City Rail Link is going to help property prices go up.
False. I got no opinion over there at the end of the day. I look at the averages. Or just sell more property.
The train's not going to help your house prices, guys.
It'll be beneficial to the people right by the station.
Yeah, 100%. But then again, do people really want to live next to a train station? Some might. Some don't want to.
People that don't have a car.
Yeah, exactly.
And most people in Auckland have a car, so
100%. I think driving is more preferred in Auckland than public transport for most people.
Yeah.
But we should be having a great public transport system. However, that doesn't correlate to your property's price.
Yeah.
Okay, last one. Is it possible to get 9% gross yields in South Auckland?
It's very rare, but there's been some deals at 9-10%. But you probably have to put an offer on at least 100 or 200 properties or get the right connection to get that property, which is multi-income. You're looking at maybe some add value. You buy a property that's really low condition, you put another house on it, you divide up some bedrooms. So it's all about how much value you can add to the property rather than just picking up a 9% deal.
Yeah. What's the highest gross yield property you've ever seen that's hit the market and sold in the last sort of 2-3 years in your time?
I've seen boarding houses that would get like 15 to 20%. They have a lot of like other costs that would be gross margin, and you'd have a lot of management fee. You have on-site manager that would be quite a lot. So I bought a house in Gisborne at the end of last year. So
no, we heard about this. We're big fans of Gisborne because there's a big rental demand there, right?
Yeah.
Most people sleep on small town, and a 2-bedroom townhouse might be somewhat of an investment, which you should really do the numbers on if you're buying that in Auckland.
Yeah.
Versus Gisborne, where 70% off the Auckland price and the rent is more or less very close.
Yeah, it's very similar. It's like I paid $350 for the property, renovated it for $120. Now it's worth $600K.
That would have been a good experience, man.
And now I didn't do anything. I got the tradie and he did the whole renovation. I didn't pick up a paintbrush.
Nice.
So I've only been to the property once. I bought it at auction and flew down, had a look at it, and it's renoed and all rent managed, and now rented at $775 a week.
Is that plan to hold it long term?
Just to hold it long term. So I've refinanced it. So I pulled the money out,
Get some equity.
And I'm just putting it into the business right now.
Nice, man.
Yeah.
There you go. Most people think that, they need to go get a business loan. How about you get a nice property for a decent price, add some value, refinance, take the equity out for your venture. Now you're getting business finance that might be north of 10% unsecured versus something that might be in the 5 or 6s or even lower. Yeah. So great call on that. Thanks for joining us, Lawrence. Everyone, if you're looking for a sharp shooter, an agent that crushes it in South Auckland or even beyond, someone that is building a journey and a legacy, you should definitely reach out to Lawrence. Obviously, if you've enjoyed this podcast or if you have any feedback, we'd love to hear from you. Please subscribe. We want to hear anything you've got to say, and we'll see you next time.